Hey guys, welcome to another episode. Today, hopefully be a quick short one for you today. We're going to be working on our brake system today. Now there's a couple of videos that we've already done where we rebuilt our rear end and took care of the brake system while we were there. I'll make sure to drop a link up above for that one. Then we also did our front brake system when we attacked the front suspension, and I'll make sure to drop a link for that one up here now. So that one will be up there for you guys. So now we're actually working on the actual front end of all the brakes beyond just the rubber lines and the hard lines. We're going to be putting in our master cylinder. This is the one that came off the car, so we're going to give it a try. It's not hard to get off and on. It's just two 13 millimeter bolts or nuts that hold them on there. So hopefully we can save a few dollars and reuse this one, but if we have to get a new one, we'll just reach out to Vic's and grab one from them. Now the hard part about this is we can't really bench bleed our master. Now on typical like GMs and Fords, you'll be able to do that because the reservoir is built onto the top of the master cylinder. But for our cars, they're two separate pieces. So it's going to be important that we replace our rubber lines that are used for brake fluid. If you don't use brake fluid rated lines, they'll degrade over time and you'll end up having a huge mess and they're not strong enough. So make sure you guys have the right kind of hoses for that. Now there's two different ways that we could bleed these brakes. There's the old school by yourself method, which is just a bottle and some clear hose that attaches to the bleeder screw on top, and you just keep pumping until the fluid is solid and no more tiny bubbles. But we went over to Harbor Freight, and picked up a bleeder kit, a vacuum bleeder. So we'll be able to open this up and give it a good test, and we'll be able to do it a lot easier by ourselves with this. This is how we're doing it, but there's obviously nothing wrong with the old school bottle and clear line method either. So we're going to go install our master cylinder and our reservoir up front, and then we're going to start with our farthest brake away from the master cylinder, which will be right here, our passenger rear. So you work your way farthest to closest. So we're going to start here, and then go to the other side, and then the passenger front, and finally end up on the driver's front. And we'll be able to see if we have any sort of brake. And if that all goes well, which I'm sure it will, we'll install our handbrake. Later, we'll install our handbrake because we've got a drive shaft to still install. So we're going to make sure that's out of the way for now until we're closer to the end. But the handbrake is very simple. I'll show you where that attaches and how it attaches. But we're not going to really install ours until our drive shaft and our drivetrain is put back in the car. So, enough talking. Let's get this stuff thrown in the car and start bleeding some brakes. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to install is our reservoir. But before we even put it on there, it's going to be really hard when it's attached to put our rubber lines on. So I'm going to put the rubber lines on first. These are 1/4 inch, I believe. And they should slide right on and all the way up, just like that. They should be nice and tightly fit. Shouldn't have any... just like that. Now it's going to be a lot easier to put them on there. And these are 10 millimeters on here. So as always, we're going to get them started by hand and then cinching them up. Okay, so we've got that attached, and we've got our two brake fluid sensor wires here. We're just going to tuck them to the side because we're going to be taking this off, and we're going to start filling it with fluid once we get our master cylinder on. And these are two 13 millimeter nuts that hold it on here. If I can get this washer out. Okay, there you go. And you'll see there's the push rod from the brake pedal is right there in the middle. So we're going to want to slide this in here. Just like that. Put our washers on. All right. And these are 13s. So I find it easier to attach the hard lines first and then the rubber lines. The rubber lines are going to have a lot more give to it to kind of manipulate it how we need to go. And the hard lines are really only set to be in one location. So I'd much rather finagle with the rubber flexible lines and try and bend and manipulate these to go where I need them to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my 10mm line wrench. And I try not to use an open end because you'll end up rounding these off. So I'm going to grab my wrench, tighten those up, and get these attached. So now we've got everything attached nice and snug. And this is that line wrench I'm telling you guys about. It's got the more enclosed on there. Oh, it fully wraps around the nut. And we had to do a little bit of trimming on our closer brake line, our rubber hose here. There's two sides to this reservoir. There's a main and the reserve. And I always like to have this one towards the front, closer, and then it'll reach. So what we're going to do is we're going to top off our reservoir here, start filling it up. I'm going to check for leaks real quick. I don't have any of the bleeders open around the car, and we see lots of bubbles working their way up, which is good. Lots of big fat bubbles coming up, so it's a good sign. I don't see anything leaking out of the metal lines. And the level's definitely going down pretty quick. Those big bubbles are a good sign of fluid taking place where the air was. That's one down. So what I'm going to do is while that starts to gravity bleed into the master, I'm going to start getting our vacuum bleeder unpackaged out of the packaging there, get it all set up. That way we can go to the back and start doing some vacuum bleeding while this kind of works its way through. So let's get set up. All right, so our bleeder screw is here on the back side of our caliper. You can see where the rubber line comes in, it meets it right there. It's kind of tough to see, but it requires an 8mm wrench. I rest the box end on it, just like that. And our vacuum bleeder looks like this. We've got our pump and our can in the middle, and all the fluid that it brings through gets collected in this can. So what we do is we attach the rubber line directly onto the bleeder screw, just like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to build pressure. We're at 5. As our backing comes off. There we go. We're at 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack this open, and that vacuum is going to pull it from the master cylinder forward. Now it's going to be tricky because we want to make sure that that master is always full, because as soon as it's not full, you're going to allow air back in the system. You have to start all over again. So let's give it a shot here. It's going to take a little bit because all the lines are completely empty. Put up to 10 to 15 psi. As soon as it gets down to 0, we'll close it and start again. Do one more time and then we'll go check the master. All right, let's go check the master cylinder and see if we've got some fluid dropping. All right, so we're here up front, and it does look like the fluid dropped a little bit, not a whole lot, and some of the debris that was left over from the dirt and debris that was in there. So we're going to top it off again, go back and continue the cycle. It might be worth it to pump the brakes a little bit to really work out those bubbles and then do the bleeder. So we're going to kind of do a mix of back and forth, trying between the pedal in the back corner of the car. So let's keep topping this off and keep pumping those brakes. All right, so we're getting in the car here. Oh, it's kind of a weird angle. We got to push our brake here in the middle. Don't really feel it getting any stiffer, but like I said, the lines are completely empty, so. Not dropping quite a lot, but we're going to keep topping it up just to be safe. Do not want to put air back in that system. There we go, right up to the top. And keep on pumping. See if we can see anything. You kind of see it going down little by little. See if I can set you guys up here and you can watch and you tell me how it goes. We can see that level is starting to drop as we pump the brakes. We'll do a quick check here. I don't see any fluid coming out and around. Check the underneath the car, make sure we don't have fluid coming out somewhere. Looks good. And looks good. So we're making progress. So now maybe we can give it a shot with our bleeder. Alright, so it's just going to be a lot of rinse and repeat of this to get the fluid all the way to the back. So we're going to do this on each corner, and then we're going to give the brakes a final test. Alright, so we were able to get all 4 corners bled, and our brake pedal is nice and firm, which means that our master cylinder is holding pressure just fine. I push down on the pedal and hold it, and you don't feel a slow release or anything like that, then we know we're holding a good pressure. Now at all 4 corners, I made sure the bleeders were able to bleed all the way through. We were having some issues with the Harbor Freight tool and the old school method. The tube just didn't want to stick onto the bleeder, so we ended up just doing a gravity bleed. Luckily the fluid had gotten down far enough to where it was meeting the bleeders, so we were able to crack the 4 corners and just kind of let it gravity feed through, and it was starting to self bleed and get all those little air bubbles out. And now the pedal is super firm, and it's so much better now that we've gotten that all taken care of. So the next thing we're going to look at is our handbrake cable, which is going to be right here in the bag, nice and new from Vic Auto Sports. I'll make sure to drop it down in the description down below where you can get yours. And this is a real simple process. We're going to get set up underneath there, underneath the car here, take a look, and get it set up. So to install our rear handbrake, I've already got the passenger side attached. All you have to do is get this ball on the back side. You can see it through the guide here, just like that. Bring the wire up through, and there you go, you're set. And the next thing you want to do is go here till your handbrake cable comes down. Now this has got to go on here. This is where the cable will actually rest inside of this, just like that. And then it'll be pulled up and tensioned according to the, bring it up. There'll be a tension on here according to where it lines up and how it aligns. But we're not going to be doing that all the way through just yet. We still have to install our drive shaft, which is here, and we redid that, and I'll put a link to the video up here in the corner. That way you can see that. But we've got to put that in first, and then we'll go and put our handbrake cable in. But that's a very simple, easy process. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for today's episode. A very short one, but relatively easy to do by yourself. Of course, if you have someone to help you, that makes the process a lot easier. They can hit the pedal while you crack the bleeders. Our Harbor Freight tool and the old school method didn't quite work for us, but luckily we got the brake fluid down to the bleeders to where we could let it gravity feed over time. And I just kind of left them open. That way they could work themselves out and get all those little tiny bubbles out of the system. Now remember, do not let that master cylinder reservoir go dry. Once you do, you have to start all over again, and it really just drags out a process that isn't too difficult. So, update though, I do have stickers available. If you would like a sticker, you just got to send me an email at garagetimetv@gmail.com, and I will mail you one of these absolutely free. The only catch is you got to send me a picture of where you send it, so that way I can post it and show everybody where they managed to put their stickers. So until next time guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. That really helps me out so I can continue to make content for you guys to keep this channel going. So make sure you hit that red button on the bottom. It really helps me out. So until next time guys, we'll see ya.